Picture the American frontier. For many, the mind conjures a specific, powerful image, one painted by a century of novels and films. It's a vision of vast, open plains rolling away to meet an endless sky, bathed in the golden light of manifest destiny. This is the romantic image, the grand narrative of expansion and boundless opportunity. It's a story of heroic figures on horseback, silhouetted against a dramatic sunset, the masters of all they survey. But this idealized version, while compelling, often smooths over the jagged, brutal edges of reality. It captures the dream, but it omits the daily struggle that was the true price of that dream. For the first wave of American settlers, ranchers, and buffalo hunters who ventured into the southern plains in the 1870s, this landscape was not a romantic backdrop. It was a formidable, living adversary. The wind was a constant, scouring presence, a physical force that wore down equipment, frayed nerves, and stole the warmth from your body. The sun was merciless, beating down from a sky that offered no shade, no respite. This was a world of extremes, where a placid afternoon could erupt into a violent hailstorm, and a winter blizzard could appear on the horizon with terrifying speed. Survival here wasn't about conquering the land in a grand sense. It was about enduring it, day by grueling day. The most immediate and daunting challenge was the profound lack of traditional building materials. With no trees for lumber, the iconic log cabin of the eastern frontier was an impossible fantasy. The relentless winds swept across the plains with nothing to break their force, making any above-ground structure a potential casualty. So, how did they survive? How did they carve out a space for family, for safety, for life itself, in a place that seemed to offer nothing but earth and sky? They found the answer not by building up, but by digging down. Their first homes weren't log cabins standing proud against the skyline. They were holes in the ground, humble shelters carved directly from the very soil they sought to tame. These were the frontier dugouts, a forgotten chapter in the story of American ingenuity and a raw testament to the will to endure. This is the story of how pioneers went underground to conquer the West. The stage for this great subterranean migration was set by conflict. After the brutal Red River War of 1874 concluded, the U.S. government forcibly removed the Comanche, Kiowa, and Southern Cheyenne peoples from their ancestral lands, confining them to reservations. This violent chapter effectively cleared the territory, and the vast southern plains were officially opened for American settlement. A flood of humanity followed, drawn by the promise of land and a new beginning. People arrived carrying the weight of their hopes and dreams, but they quickly discovered that it was the ancient geology of the land, not their aspirations, that dictated the rules of survival. The landscape itself would shape their lives, their homes, and their future in the most fundamental ways. Nowhere was this more true than on the Llano Estacado or the Staked Plain, a massive elevated plateau stretching across parts of Texas and New Mexico. This was one of the largest mesas in North America, a remarkably flat, featureless, and almost entirely treeless expanse. Faced with this stark environment, settlers had to abandon every preconceived notion of what a home should be. They had to get creative, looking to the earth itself for their salvation. The solution was the dugout. The most basic form was the full dugout, constructed on the open, flat prairie. Settlers would painstakingly excavate a deep rectangular pit, often 6 to 7 feet deep, which would become the main living space. A more common and structurally sound variation was the half dugout. This involved finding a natural ravine, a small hill, or the bank of a dry creek bed and carving horizontally into the earth. This method was preferable as the hillside itself formed 3 of the 4 walls, providing superior stability and insulation. This wasn't random digging. It was a form of intuitive, high-stakes geoengineering. The choice of where to break ground was the most critical decision a family could make, a choice that could mean the difference between a secure shelter and a muddy, windswept grave. They learned to read the subtle language of the land with an expert eye. Modern archaeological analysis of historic dugout sites confirms this remarkable foresight. A staggering 64% of known dugouts were strategically placed on sheltered south-facing slopes. This orientation maximized sun exposure during the harsh winters, helping to warm the dwelling, while simultaneously placing the home on the leeward side of the prevailing northerly winds, offering crucial protection from the infamous plains blizzards, the dreaded blue northers. They were also often situated near valleys or arroyos, which could channel away excess rainwater and reduce the risk of catastrophic flooding. Beyond wind protection, every dugout was a careful calculation of proximity to life's essentials. They were almost always built near two absolutely critical resources: a reliable source of water, be it a spring, creek, or a spot where a well could be dug, and specific rock outcrops that could provide a substitute for wood. The most common building material, the stone that made these subterranean homes possible, was sandstone from the Triassic Age geological layer known as the Dockham Group. This rock was relatively soft and stratified, allowing determined pioneers to quarry it with simple tools like picks, wedges, and hammers. They would pry loose slabs and painstakingly shape them into rough blocks. When wood was impossibly scarce and prohibitively expensive, this ancient reddish stone became their walls, their foundations, and their fireplaces. The construction process was grueling, a monumental feat of manual labor. Entire families, including women and children, would join in the back-breaking work. Using little more than spades, picks, and wheelbarrows, they would excavate and move tons of dense earth by hand. It was a slow, arduous battle against the soil, undertaken in the oppressive heat of summer or the biting cold of winter. A race against time to create shelter before the elements claimed them. For a roof, they had to be just as resourceful. If they were lucky, they could haul in scarce and expensive cottonwood logs from a distant riverbed to serve as the main ridgepole and rafters. More often, they used what the plains provided, the large, sturdy bones of the recently decimated buffalo herds. Across this framework, they would lay a layer of brush or hides and then pile on thick layers of cut sod. This sod, a dense carpet of prairie grass with its tangled fibrous root system, was a surprisingly effective roofing material, providing insulation and some measure of water resistance. The finished home was a marvel of camouflage, a structure that was more a part of the landscape than an imposition upon it. From a distance, their home was just a small, grassy mound on the prairie, barely distinguishable from the surrounding terrain, with only a stovepipe and a single dark opening to betray its existence. The door was often just a blanket, a buffalo hide, or a salvaged piece of canvas hung over the entrance to keep out the worst of the wind and dust. To step inside was to enter a world of profound contrasts. The thick earthen walls acted as a natural geothermal insulator. In the blistering heat of a plains summer, the interior remained remarkably cool, a dark welcome refuge from the sun's glare. And during the brutal winters, the dugout held on to the meager heat generated by a small central hearth or cook stove, making survival possible when temperatures plummeted far below freezing. But this subterranean life came at a cost. The interior was perpetually dark, lit only by the doorway, perhaps a single small window, and the flickering of a fire or a kerosene lamp. It was cramped, with low ceilings that forced even people of average height to stoop. And it was constantly, inescapably damp, with a musty, earthy smell that clung to everything. Rainstorms, a blessing for the crops, were a terror for the dugout dweller. The sod roof would absorb water until it became saturated, leading to endless muddy drips that turned the floor to mire. A heavy, prolonged downpour brought the terrifying risk of a complete collapse. Privacy was a luxury they couldn't afford, and they were never truly alone. They shared this cramped, subterranean space with the original inhabitants of the soil. Spiders spun webs in every corner. Centipedes and beetles were common roommates. And occasionally, a bull snake or a prairie rattler would seek shelter from the heat or cold, creating moments of sheer terror in the dim confines of the family home. These dugouts weren't just homes for hopeful families. They were versatile, multi-purpose structures at the heart of the frontier economy. For the commercial buffalo hunters who swarmed the plains in the 1870s, a dugout was a hidden, defensible base of operation, a place to store supplies and cure hides far from prying eyes. For the first cattle ranchers staking claim to precious water sources, the dugout was a fortified outpost. Building one near a spring or creek was a de facto declaration of ownership, a way to physically secure the range rights that were essential for their herds. They were a universal first step, a testament to human adaptability in the face of overwhelming odds. But their era was destined to be short-lived. The 1883 law that effectively ended the free range by requiring formal land leases and fencing began to tame the open prairie. As railroads brought in affordable lumber and communities grew, people moved into proper frame houses. The dugout, its vital purpose served, was often abandoned, its roof collapsing, its walls eroding, left to be reclaimed by the very earth that formed it. These humble earthen structures were the ultimate expression of making do, of turning a hostile environment into a protective embrace. They are a powerful reminder that conquering the West wasn't just about grand gestures and courage on horseback. It was about the quiet, humble, back-breaking work of digging in. It was about the profound ingenuity of using the very landscape you feared, the wind, the sun, the earth itself, to protect you from its harshest extremes. Today, the faint depressions and grassy mounds that dot the plains are all that remain. They are a forgotten layer of American history, a story of resilience and survival, written not in books, but literally into the soil of the nation.